It is obvious that by deciding to hand over so-called assembly functions to the Ukrainians, London and Paris are making a desperate attempt to absolve themselves of responsibility for strikes deep within our country's territory. It will not work. You in Paris, London, Berlin, and other capitals bear direct responsibility for involvement in these terrorist attacks.
No way out for Burnham and Macron after Zelensky's Donetsk attack, as Russia turns its fury toward Ukraine's backers? Russia fumes after UK-French missiles rain down in Donetsk, raising fears of a dangerous new escalation? Putin set to expand the war to Western Europe very soon, as Moscow warns Ukraine's European allies against deeper involvement? Russia sounds a chilling warning to Zelensky's European allies, as Moscow threatens consequences for their growing military support? Ukraine and its backers, playing with fire? Russia puts UK military sites on the radar as tensions spiral further? London in the crosshairs? Russia tells Burnham to back off or face a potentially dangerous response from Moscow. In its strongest warning yet, Russia sent a chilling message to Britain and Ukraine, signaling that the confrontation could escalate further. The Russian Foreign Ministry, on August 27, claimed UK military targets are now on Moscow's radar as tensions continue to intensify. Zakharova warned Russia is ready to strike UK military sites inside Ukraine and potentially beyond Ukrainian territory if attacks continue. Spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused London of terrorism against Russian civilians, sharply escalating Moscow's rhetoric against Britain. Russia also lashed out at France and Germany, accusing Ukraine's key European backers of playing with fire through deeper military involvement.
I would like to specifically highlight the destructive role played by the Euro trio, the leaders of France, Britain, and Germany, in stoking this very Ukrainian crisis. While Germany once again dreams of creating, in the words of current German officials and government members, the strongest army in Europe, the French and British have announced steps to transfer military technology to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. While in Kiev, British Prime Minister Andy Burnham underscored the continuity of London's anti-Russian stance and confirmed that the British side had not only supplied the armed forces of Ukraine with long-range strike capabilities, but also provided Kiev with the technical data needed to independently assemble Storm, Shadow/Scalp cruise missiles at Ukrainian facilities. It is obvious that by deciding to hand over so-called assembly functions to the Ukrainians, London and Paris are making a desperate attempt to absolve themselves of responsibility for strikes deep within our country's territory. It will not work. You in Paris, London, Berlin, and other capitals bear direct responsibility for involvement in these terrorist attacks. I want to reiterate, and everyone must realize this, not just those making these decisions, but also those implementing them in the West, that they are playing with fire, and the consequences could be absolutely unpredictable, including for them personally.
Russia's warning came after Ukraine struck Donetsk with British Storm Shadow missiles on August 26, according to Moscow's account of the attack. Moscow accused Ukraine of using British missiles to attack civilians in Russia-occupied Donetsk, further intensifying its confrontation with London. British leadership should carefully analyze or risk escalating the conflict, Zakharova warned, signaling Moscow's growing anger over Western weapons.
We have repeatedly warned that the response to Ukrainian strikes using British weapons on Russian territory could target any British military facilities and equipment, whether in Ukraine or beyond. Those responsible for war crimes, including those committed against our country's civilian population, will be punished in accordance with their actions. Inescapable retribution awaits their accomplices and instigators, and we urge all residents of the United Kingdom to reflect on the inevitable, catastrophic consequences of their authorities' hostile actions. And we call upon the British leadership to carefully reassess the situation and immediately, decisively, and unequivocally abandon a hostile, aggressive course that serves only to prolong the agony of the Kiev neo-Nazi regime and risks escalating the conflict to a fundamentally new level.
On August 26, Ukraine carried out deadly strikes on the Russia-controlled region of Donetsk, according to Russian officials, adding another flashpoint to the escalating conflict. Ukraine allegedly launched a missile strike on the Russian-occupied city of Donetsk on August 26, with Moscow blaming Kiev for the attack. The strikes reportedly damaged residential buildings and civilian infrastructure across Donetsk, according to regional head Denis Pushilin. Footage emerging from Donetsk showed damage near the Druzhba Sports Center, including a building that reportedly partially collapsed after the strikes. Pushilin claimed that Anglo-French Storm Shadow and Scalp-EG missiles were used in the attacks across the city, escalating the focus on Western-supplied weapons. Denis Pushilin said, and I quote, "The strikes targeted several locations in the east of Donetsk, with most of the casualties reported near the Donetsk City Mall. The Western-supplied munitions used included the Anglo-French Storm Shadow Scalp-EG missiles. At least 8 civilians, including 2 minors, were injured in the strikes near the mall, while another man was wounded by the detonation of an unexploded ordnance piece at another location. 2 other civilians were wounded in the Ukrainian attacks elsewhere in the DPR. A total of 8 residential buildings, 11 civilian infrastructure sites, and multiple cars were damaged in the attacks across the city and beyond." Unquote. Russian investigators have launched a probe into the strikes and begun collecting evidence from the affected sites to determine the scale and circumstances of the attack.
Officers from the Russian Investigative Committee are currently inspecting and documenting the aftermath of a large-scale armed attack on residential neighborhoods in the central districts of Donetsk. During the inspection, it was established that numerous attacks had caused damage and destruction to civilian infrastructure, apartment blocks, and cars located near the epicenter of the explosion. Fragments, believed to be from large-caliber ammunition of foreign manufacture, have been found at the scene. All fragments and shrapnel will be collected and sent for analysis to determine the specific type and caliber of the ammunition. Details regarding the damage and casualties are being clarified.
The allegations came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky named prominent commanders to reinforce the Donetsk region on August 26, signaling Kiev's continued focus on the battlefield.
Our positions in the Donetsk region will be strengthened thanks to 2 revamped groupings. Their commanders will be Hero of Ukraine Denis Prokopenko and Hero of Ukraine Andriy Bautsky. Today I thanked our assault forces for their results. This is one of the operations that has already become historic, proving that Ukrainians can achieve their goals and inflict substantial losses on the Russians. The Oleksandrivsky counteroffensive. Every step that pushes Russian forces back brings greater security for our people and greater diplomatic opportunity for Ukraine.
Earlier, a Ukrainian drone reportedly struck an intercity passenger bus in neighboring Luhansk, adding to growing concerns over attacks on civilian targets. Local Governor Leonid Paseknik said at least 9 civilians were killed in the strike, while another 5 people were reportedly injured in the attack. The incident came as Kiev continues expanding its long-range strike campaign against Russian-held areas, bringing more distant targets into the crosshairs.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.